What is up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Not So Stupid Podcast. Today we have a very special and fun guest about a topic that has become all the rage more recently, and that is mushrooms. My guest today is Jeff Chilton, president and founder of Nammex, which is a medicinal mushroom company. They specialize in mushroom extracts, but they also sell full mushrooms, spores, and all the like to retail people and large companies as well. So really cool guy, super knowledgeable. He's been in the mushroom industry since the early 70s, way ahead of his time in what he knows about mushrooms and the special properties of them as well. He's also co-authored the highly acclaimed book, The Mushroom Cultivator, which is the best-selling book in the mushroom niche specifically. So awesome guest, again, super knowledgeable, and I can't wait for you guys to hear everything he has to say about mushrooms and taking care of your health and improving, optimizing your health with the aid of mushrooms. So without further ado, here is the podcast interview with Jeff Chilton.
All right, Jeff Chilton, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Juma. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I've been waiting for this for a good amount of time since we last talked, and I'm excited to have you on. For the people that don't know who you are, though, would you mind giving us a brief backstory about who you are, what you do, and how you ended up where you're at?
Sure. You know, I was born in the Pacific Northwest. I was raised in Seattle, and Seattle is really a beautiful city, and Washington State is known as the Evergreen State, and that means we have lots of forests, lots of lakes and rivers, a beautiful area. And also, it's the perfect climate for mushrooms. And so when I was growing up, you know, mushrooms were all around. And also I got out and was lucky enough to do some mushroom hunting. And then when I went to university there in Seattle, University of Washington, I decided to study mushrooms. And you know, my major was anthropology because, look, I was really interested in other cultures, but they also had a great mycology department. Mycology is the study of fungi. And so I took some courses in that. But then after university, it's like, okay, what do you do with a degree in anthropology? So my mycology professor actually said to me, hey, there's a mushroom farm 60 miles down the road. Maybe you should go and apply for a job, because I'd said to him, gee, I'd really love to learn how to grow mushrooms. That'd be really cool. And so I went down to the mushroom farm, got a job. That's 1973, long before you were born. And I was there for the next 10 years. And wow. On this mushroom farm, which is a very large commercial mushroom farm, like 200 employees, 2 million pounds of mushrooms being produced every year. I'm literally living with mushrooms. I mean, you know, and have you ever been to a mushroom farm?
I haven't, actually. We don't have those around my area.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing about it is that even if you were to drive by one, you probably wouldn't even know it's there, because mushrooms are all grown indoors in North America. So they're grown indoors in big warehouses that are all climate controlled. So, you know, it's not like driving by and looking out at fields of corn or something like that. No, they're all indoors. So very few people have actually seen a mushroom farm. But at any rate, there's like multiple rooms, probably, I think, close to 40 different warehouse rooms, big rooms, and each one had an individual crop, and each crop was on a 90-day cycle. So essentially, these mushrooms are growing all the time. New crops are coming in every week. Old crops are being dumped on this 90-day cycle. So the mushrooms never sleep. And so you have to have an army of harvesters there to actually harvest these. But they're harvesting on Christmas, on New Year's, you name it. They're in there harvesting the mushrooms. So at any rate, I'm there working for 10 years, just again living with mushrooms, enjoying it a lot, although it was also, you know, hard work. But that sort of started me off. And then in 1989, long after I'd left the mushroom farm, I decided, well, because I still want to stay in this whole mushroom industry, I thought, well, I'd learned a lot about mushrooms being used for medicinal purposes in my university studies and my readings, and I thought, man, that really sounds like a better business, for one, because, you know, with mushrooms, you have to get them to market like any fresh vegetable. So you've got to get it to market. And also, like I'm saying, you're a babysitter. You're stuck with these crops. You've got to be there all the time. So I started my business Nammex in 1989 selling powdered mushroom extracts to the nutritional supplement industry. And listen, in 1989, no company in the supplement industry had a mushroom product.
Crazy.
And so I'm at these trade shows, and I'm kind of walking around and meeting these different people at these companies and saying, hey, did you know that mushrooms have medicinal properties and they're part of a traditional Chinese medicine? And everybody's like, no, and didn't know anything about it. And so I'm having to educate them, and of course they're all telling me the same thing. Look, nobody's asking us for these products. Why should we put out a product? There's no demand, right? So for the next 10 years, all through the 90s, I had articles that I wrote, and I had other people write articles, and I'm really trying to educate the whole industry to the fact that mushrooms have these benefits to them, and they should be sold in the product lines of all these companies that have, you know, they had all the different green herbs and stuff that, you know, echinacea or ginseng or ginkgo or all these other herbs that they're selling. So at any rate, in Nammex, I started in 1989, and, you know, it's kind of funny because all of a sudden, after all of this time, Juma, it's like in like 2016 or so, mushrooms all of a sudden start to trend.
Huge explosion.
And it's just kind of like, you know how the way I like to describe it is a lot of times if you're out walking around and you see a mushroom and you go, wow, look at that mushroom. Like maybe it's in your yard or something. You go, wow, look at that mushroom. Where did that come from? It must have just come up overnight. Well, it didn't. Actually, it was there, and it was small, and it grew until finally it got big enough that you noticed it. And that's kind of like this same mushroom category of medicinal, or what we now actually call functional mushrooms. All of a sudden, it's just gotten to this point where people have started to notice, and the next thing you know, there's a lot more articles being written, and it's all talking about, oh, mushrooms are trending and mushrooms are good for this and that. So, you know, to some degree, I'm kind of like ahead of my time here. But at the same time, just thinking to myself, hey, look, I knew about the benefits of mushrooms from way back, and was even studying about that in university in the late 60s. And now all of a sudden, everybody's catching up. And look, in the West, we're kind of catching up too, because in Asia, in Eastern Europe, they've been on to mushrooms for thousands of years, and eating them, using them in for medicinal purposes and things like that. So we're just catching up, and right now the business has just gone sort of crazy because of it.
Man, I can imagine. I see advertised on Instagram and Facebook all kinds of mushroom infused, supplements, coffees, teas, and oils and things like that. As a man ahead of your time, right, as you said, and definitely how I feel about it. Well, how do you feel about how mushrooms are being used right now? Do you feel like they're being used to their fullest potential? Is there still room for growth? Like, where do you stand on that?
Well, they've been confined since, I guess, 1990 or so, like in the supplement space, the whole idea of functional mushrooms. It's been in the supplement space. But now people are starting to understand that there are not just nutritional benefits, but there's also ways to put them into different food products. Instead of just eating fresh mushrooms, there's ways like mushroom coffee, like teas, which are still kind of supplements in a way, but you know, teas and beverages are foods, and so we sell to companies that are putting them in all sorts of interesting beverages. And you know, the beverage space has opened up so much in the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, it used to be what were your choices when you went to the beverage aisle? I mean, you know, Coke and Pepsi and all the pretenders. I mean, it's just like, you know, sweet sodas. And now you go there and you see all the different drinks, and it's just absolutely incredible. And so the fact that they're putting mushrooms into beverages is one place, and then putting them into different food products, whether we've got a number of companies that are adding our mushroom extracts to chocolates. They're adding them to, you know, it's just the innovations, I guess, is what I would say. And, you know, your generation too, and the people that are in the generations much younger than I am, there's just so much innovation in diet and in different foods, and you know, it's, the world has opened up too. So although we've had ethnic foods for quite a long time, that has all created all sorts of interesting fusions and ways to use these different herbs, whether it be mushrooms or other herbs, in food products. So right now, one of the things that's happening for us is we have all these different food companies coming to us wanting to use our extract products in their food offerings. So, you know, it's fascinating to me. And of course, mushrooms are so versatile, and with our products, with our extracts, where we've got concentrates, there's you know, we sell about 10 different species of mushroom, and each species has its own flavor and aroma. So that whole flavor profile is something where you can really do a lot of interesting things with mushrooms, and so that's been an area in our business that has really opened up in a big way. So it's like just a second arena besides just the supplement world.
I like how you mentioned how, as you know, time goes on and future generations take us, you know, crack at this, they find all these innovative ways to use mushrooms. Because I'm Middle Eastern, and hummus, you know, over the last 5-10 years has become really popular with North Americans, and now they have so many flavors of hummus. They have chocolate hummus, which, like, my parents find abominable. You know, like,
yes, of course.
What are you doing this to our hummus, kind of thing?
Yeah. I get it. It's so true. I mean, and that's kind of, you know, look, the world has shrunk so much, and that's where you have just a whole different number of opportunities that have been created for different combinations, different fusions, different ways of looking at diet. And look, you know, too, I mean, look, the diet in North America for the longest time, I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, it was just basically, okay, meat, potatoes, a vegetable as kind of a, yeah, okay, whatever, we'll put some vegetables there. And that was kind of the standard diet in North America. And that has changed a lot too. And a lot of it too is just because, as well as people looking for healthy alternatives, we've learned more about different foods. We've learned, I mean, a lot of foods have particular compounds in them that are beneficial for us, whether that be something like a broccoli, or, you know, there's certain fruits that they've figured out what compounds are in certain fruits that are beneficial. So we've learned a lot more, and that has just opened up a lot of opportunities. And just to give you kind of an idea of that, in 1973, when I started my work at the mushroom farm, classical nutritionists, they basically said, mushrooms have no food value.
Oh, wow.
They have a good flavor, but no food value. And so the reason they said that was because mushrooms were low in calories.
Mm.
No calories, no food value,
They kind
according
of
to
consider them
nutritionists at the
like
time.
spices, basically.
Yes, exactly. Like, oh, it's got a great flavor, put it in this or put it in that. But since then, there's been a lot more work done on mushrooms to show nutritional profiles and mineral profiles. And just for your listeners, it's like a couple things. First of all, every mushroom will be a little bit different in terms of the nutritional profile. You
Mhm.
can't, it's just like different fruits will have different nutritional profiles. Same with mushrooms. So, but in general, you're looking at somewhere around 20 to 30% protein, mostly carbohydrates, anywhere from 40 to 70% carbohydrates. But the carbs in mushrooms are not starches. The carbs are very slow acting carbohydrates, one of which is called mannitol.
Mhm.
And so, you've probably heard of slow foods and the slow food movement and stuff like that. And also the whole glycemic index idea of, like you eat a potato and all of that inside of it is starchy. It's just like a bomb. You eat it and it's just like boom, up goes your blood sugar, and then down it comes later. Well, the carbs in mushrooms are slow acting, slow releasing, and that's what we're looking for in good carbohydrates, really, unless we're in certain types of athletic events where we want that surge in energy or something like that. But basically, good carbohydrates, low in fat. The mineral profile is really good, high in vitamin B1, 2, and 3. So you're getting B vitamins there. And then the minerals, the high minerals are potassium and phosphorus, which always are good in terms of, just general nutrition. So the nutritional profile of mushrooms is really good. And the other side of it is that mushrooms have these amazing functional benefits to them. And one of the major benefits is their ability to potentiate our immune system.
Mm.
Immunity. Geez, we're talking a lot about immunity these days, aren't we?
Yeah, the whole world's trying to get more of that.
Exactly. And mushrooms, in their cell walls, they have a compound called beta glucan. And this beta glucan is very specific to fungi. And fungi are kind of a big category. And it's interesting because mushrooms are not an animal. They're not a plant. They have their own kingdom right in between. And that kingdom, there's a lot of different organisms in that kingdom, but we can break that down into a couple of categories. One is what we would call imperfect fungi, and the other one would be perfect fungi. The imperfect fungi are an interesting class. We all know them as molds.
Mhm.
And, we've seen our bread. We go in and the bread's a little bit old and we look at it, oh my God, there's a green mold on it or a black
Right.
mold or something like that. Okay. Those molds do not produce any sort of what we call a mushroom or fruiting body, whereas the perfect fungi, they will also have that mold characteristic, which is what is called mycelium. So when the mold is growing, it's got these really fine filaments at first, and it's usually like oftentimes it's kind of white and you see it grow. The next thing you know, it turns green or black or something like that. When it turns color, what it's actually doing is producing spores.
Mm-hmm.
And when people are talking about, oh, I'm really allergic to molds and things like that, what they're talking about is actually the spores.
Mm.
The
So the mold itself
molds,
isn't.
yeah, not so much the mold itself, although there are certain molds that can create toxins, like what's called aflatoxin.
Mhm.
So molds can create toxins, but molds can also create compounds that are beneficial, like penicillin. So penicillin actually comes from a fungus, one of these imperfect fungi. It's a mold. That's what produces the penicillin. Really interesting. But on the other side, with the perfect fungi, that's where the mushrooms are. And to sort of break that down so that everybody sort of understands what this organism is all about, first of all, mushrooms don't have seeds. What? They don't have seeds? How do we grow them? How do they, how does it work? Well, mushrooms have spores. So those spores, from a mature mushroom, the spores will go out, they'll float on the air currents, they'll land on the ground, they'll land on wood, and then when those spores germinate, they'll germinate into a very fine filament, and when these filaments come together into a network, that network's called mycelium. And I was just talking about that with the molds. Okay, the mold is just mycelium, and then it produces spores. With the mushroom side of things, the mycelium, and what it's doing too is mycelium is the vegetative body, and it's consuming all of the organic matter that's out in nature. So, the leaves, the branches, all of, even annual plants that come up, they're beautiful, they die. Now there's all the stems and leaves and all that laying there. Somebody's got to break that down, or else we would be, like up to here in all this plant matter. So this mycelium, along with, of course, bacteria and bugs and everything else, is consuming all of that. And that's how it grows. It will consume all this organic matter. Now, with these perfect fungi, what happens is then when conditions are right, which out here in the Pacific Northwest is the fall, the temperature goes down, the rains come, which means the humidity goes up. Up comes this mushroom. So the mushroom comes up, and it starts really small. We don't see it. We never see that mycelium, because that mycelium is like under the ground in the piece of wood. We normally don't notice it at all. If you were to actually pick that mushroom and look at the earth where it came out of, you would see this kind of white, stringy mycelium. So up comes the mushroom. It reaches a certain point where it's big enough that we notice it, and it's also mature. And then underneath that cap are these gills, and out come the spores. And the spores get out. So we've completed this life cycle, and this is kind of important in the sense that every herb or herbal product that we consume, we have to know what part of this organism are we consuming, because every part will have a different chemical profile. So when we're looking at a certain plant, for example, is it the flowers? Is it the leaves? Is it the root? What is it of that particular plant that is beneficial, that is what we want to take? If we take the wrong part, we may be getting none of what we want to get. So it's the same with a mushroom. We've got 3 plant parts, so to speak. It's not a plant, but we'll call them plant parts, because that's what the industry, how it characterizes them. So we've got spore, we've got mycelium, and we've got the mushroom. And the mushroom is what has been used traditionally in traditional Chinese medicine, and herbalists worldwide, they use the mushroom, and that mushroom is where most of the medicinal compounds are created. And I kind of started this out with the beta glucans. The beta glucans make up 50% of the cell wall in that mushroom. And those beta glucans are the compounds that give mushrooms their medicinal activity, the activity that potentiates our immune system. So that's the basic compound that we look for when we are analyzing mushrooms. Even the mycelium will have some beta glucans, but it will not have the same amount of all of the compounds or as much beta glucan as the mushroom. So that becomes our primary test in terms of quality control of our products, and any products out there are the beta glucans, and it's really kind of an interesting compound.
Yeah, I definitely want to dive into that a little bit further, but first I want to ask, you mentioned that obviously mushrooms don't have seeds, they have spores. Are the different spores what indicate what type of mushrooms end up evolving into like a full perfect mushroom, or is it what they eat? Like you mentioned, they eat different kinds of plants and things like that. Does that play a role as well? Like what ends up differentiating what type of mushroom you end up growing in that?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because when we, for example, if I want to grow a mushroom, I actually am not going to be planting spores.
Oh, okay.
What I am going to be planting, though, is mycelium. And how we do that is we can do that in two ways. We can either gather spores from a mushroom, and then we can take those spores into the lab. We can put them on a Petri plate. We can grow it out. And what happens in that Petri plate is the spores will turn into the mycelium. And then what we call mushroom spawn is putting live mycelium onto some kind of carrier material. And for example, I mean, growing live mycelium, we have to grow it on something. And so the idea is, okay, what can we grow it on that we can basically crumble up into small enough pieces that then we can put it into whatever we're growing our mushrooms in. And because mushrooms are going to grow in maybe a compost, maybe most of our mushrooms grow in wood or sawdust. So you grow out the mycelium on a carrier material, which then you break up and mix into whatever your what we call a substrate is. And that's basically the nutrients that we're feeding our mushrooms. And most medicinal mushrooms, what's really interesting, most medicinal mushrooms are grown or grow on wood. They grow on wood, and it's very interesting because wood actually has a lot of different compounds in it that the mushrooms are feeding on and allows them to actually produce the medicinal compounds in them. So that provides the precursor. So whatever it's growing on is important ultimately for those medicinal compounds. If it's growing on something without a lot of nutrients, it's not going to give you the same level of medicinal compounds if you give it, just like most plants, you put them on something, you grow them in poor soil, the plant comes up, it's not doing very well, doesn't have all of the attributes you'd normally be looking for. So that is what we utilize as seed to grow mushrooms, is actually live mycelium. And again, that has to be put on some kind of a carrier material, which actually then we will plant in our substrate to actually grow the mushroom. The other way you can actually get live mycelium, and this is really cool, you can take a fresh mushroom into the lab, you can open it up and take a piece of its flesh and put it into a Petri plate, and from that piece of flesh, the mycelium will start to grow.
Oh, wow.
And what you'll have, which is so cool, you will have an exact clone of that mushroom. So that's another way that you can get one of these mushrooms and bring it back and create your spawn and grow that mushroom that you have found in the wild. Now, The only thing about that is that not every mushroom that you find likes likes what you're going to feed it in that petri plate. A lot of them do not grow well. And even if you can grow it, sometimes it's like, no, it will not grow well under artificial conditions. And some mushrooms actually need a tree to grow properly because they have a symbiotic relationship with that tree. So that's a whole nother sort of conversation about growing those or not growing those, but very few mushrooms that have that type of relationship to other plants are what we grow. We normally grow, and the mushrooms that have been put into cultivation are mushrooms that either grow on a type of compost or on wood. And those are basically called saprophytes, and those are mushrooms where they're breaking down woody materials and other types of organic matter, and those are the ones that we normally are able to cultivate.
So it sounds like the materials you use to cultivate and reproduce these mushrooms really make a big difference in the quality of the mushroom you end up with and how much nutritional value or medicinal value ends up having. Is that right? So
absolutely correct. Yeah. And you know, I don't know whether we spoke about this before, but you know, that also becomes a very big issue when you look at commercial products in the marketplace. And this is something that for me is a very important message to people that are looking for a mushroom supplement, because what happens is first of all mushrooms in the marketplace are harvested by hand.
Oh, wow.
I mean, think about that for a second. Every single mushroom that you've ever eaten or that you see in that box in the supermarket, somebody has actually picked that by hand in these mushroom houses.
Is it because machines are too like rough with them? You need to that's
absolutely. Yeah. And because, you know, what happens too when you have, for example, these button mushrooms, and you have a long, let's just say, flat surface with all these mushrooms coming up, there might be 100,000 mushrooms, small mushrooms in that bed.
Oh, wow.
And they don't all come up at exactly the same time. So let's just say, oh yeah, let them come up, and then we'll roll down that with some kind of knives, and we'll be cutting them. Well, you do that, and they're at different stages of growth. You'll be cutting through the caps. You'll be cutting through all sorts of different places. So unless you were to grow those up and allow them all to open up, it would just be an absolute mess.
Right.
And one of the things about that particular mushroom is it is harvested at an immature stage, which is why they call it the button mushroom. And the reason they do that, it gives it a much longer shelf life. Those button mushrooms, when they put them out there, they'll stay on the shelf for a good 3, 4, 5 days and still look pretty good. When you're growing other mushrooms, like maybe the shiitake mushroom or something, well, those are grown on small wood logs made of sawdust, and actually trying to harvest those with a machine, they've never been able to figure that one out either. So you know, again, although I say there's no machine out there, I just saw a machine recently that they developed in Holland. In order to use that machine, you have to have their system of growing, and it's just for this button mushroom. And they've actually done it. Earlier, what they did is they used this machine and they slaughtered these mushrooms, but then they put them into cans. And so it was like, oh, that's okay. It's going into a can, right? But now they've actually got a machine that will do it and sort them out and everything. It's an amazing feat. But in order to use that machine, you would have to also have this exact system of cultivation that they've got. So functionally in the United States, no company has got that. So every mushroom is picked by hand. And what I'm getting at here, I guess, Juma, is the fact that mushrooms are expensive to grow. They're harvested by hand. You have to have an army of people to harvest them. They're expensive to grow. So if I take my fresh mushrooms out to the market, okay, maybe I'm getting $5 a pound and they're selling them to you for $10 or something like that. Okay, I can make a good business out of that. Fresh mushrooms, you can do it. But remember, in the supplement industry, we sell dried powders.
Right.
Now, that mushroom, like most vegetables, is 90% water. The minute you take the water out of it, now instead of getting $5 a pound, you have to get $50 a pound for that same pound of mushrooms, because now it's been dried out and it's a powder. And so in North America, the economics of growing mushrooms and putting them into the supplement space does not work economically. So what some companies do is they will actually grow out the mycelium on sterilized grain, and then at the end of the process they will dry it out, grind it to a powder, grain and all, and sell it as a mushroom.
Wow.
When there's no mushrooms in it. And that when you grow out the mycelium on grain, that's actually a process that has been utilized since the 1930s to actually create mushroom spawn. So that's what you're supposed to do with that, because every one of those grains is coated with mycelium, and you mix it into your bed, and you have thousands of these grains, and then the mycelium jumps out. So that's the process. It's supposed to be seed for growing mushrooms, but instead they take that grain with mycelium covering it, they'll dry it, grind it to a powder, and then sell it as a mushroom. So it's mislabeled. And then when you actually analyze it, it ends up being 30 to 60% starch.
Man.
Think about that for a second. They're selling, you think you're buying a mushroom product, but you're getting nothing but grain starch. And not only that, the beta glucan in there is really, really low, because the amount of mycelium in there, which has beta glucans, is low. It's mostly grain powder. And, you know, it's kind of like, well, who's going to stop that? Look, FDA has got bigger fish to fry, right? They're looking for something that's actually harming people.
Right.
So
scamming people.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, no. And these kind of things, look, with all, frankness and talking about the supplement industry,
right?
Look, I mean, you probably know this too when you look out in the supplement space, and there are so many supplements that are just not worth anything really. What you're getting is not a high quality product. It's oftentimes adulterated. It's not what you think it is. Maybe oftentimes it doesn't have enough of the active compounds in there to do you any good. So that's a huge issue out there. Nobody really is there to stop it unless it's killing somebody, and then FDA's on it, right? Or the other place where FDA gets involved is if they go out and they look at websites, and the website says this is going to cure cancer, this is going to cure this is going to cure that. No, you cannot make those claims. And yet, some sites, the claims are like, holy smokes, how are you getting away with that, right?
For real.
I mean, we don't make any of those sort of claims at all. No, we don't. We can talk about the mushrooms as, okay, look, they can potentiate your immunity. They can promote your immunity. We can say certain things like that, which are not going to be curing anything.
Right. Just helping.
And yeah, that's absolutely right. And so that's really important. But the bottom line is, look, there's a lot of products in this mushroom space that are not mushroom. And people buying these products have no idea, because if they look at the front panel of the product, it says reishi mushroom or maitake mushroom or lion's mane mushroom, picture of a mushroom.
It's got nice fancy colors, well designed
Yes,
brand.
exactly. And they go to the website. No, our product does so many wonderful things for you, and
Yeah.
and the way we make it. And they talk mushroom, and they're always talking about mushrooms when in fact that's not what they're selling.
Mm-hmm. So you know, you mentioned supplements earlier, and obviously the mushrooms you're talking about now, grounded down to a powder, you're using them for supplements. They're not regulated by the FDA. So like you said, there's a lot of supplements out there that don't do what they do. They're just trying to sell you stuff. But there are like some labels that you can look for, like a third-party tested label, or you know, things similar to that that can help you verify which supplements actually say what they claim to do or claim to have in them, and you can have confidence in buying that. Is there something similar to that for mushroom supplements as well, or it's not
Well, you know
too?
what? There's actually nothing like that for supplements, really, because what happens is that third-party verification, it just
Mm-hmm.
depends on what they're verifying, and it's very unusual that they would be verifying the active compound that is supposed to be in there. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there may be some programs that do that, but you know, when you look at all of what I call the merit badges
Mm-hmm.
that you see on labels or products, and you know, some of them are important, like we have all our products are certified organic.
Mm-hmm.
They're kosher. They're made in GMP
All right.
certified facilities. You
Mm-hmm.
can look at all of that on with a lot of products and you think, oh great, beautiful, but very few of them. I mean, the manufacturer can at times say, look, we've sent out to a third-party lab, and here's the C of A that demonstrates the fact that it has the active compounds that are supposed to
Mm-hmm.
be there. That is sometimes there, and you can look at that, and generally speaking, that'll be okay if it's a high quality lab. Sometimes there are labs that'll give companies whatever results they want,
Mm-hmm. As long as they
and
pay for them.
that's as long as they pay for them. You give them the wrong results, and you think they're going to come back and go get tested at your lab again? No.
Right.
so
Makes sense.
so you know, that's an issue, certainly. But what we do is we do on for example, we have a raw material side where we
Mm-hmm.
sell to other businesses, and then we have a retail side, and we do guarantee for beta glucans. And one of the things that we'll say too is like, look, we'll give you the names of labs that you can send our product to, and they are high quality laboratories. You can run the tests. I mean, this is especially true when we're selling to other companies
Mm-hmm.
who want to put out our products. We want them to be able to validate and to qualify our products so that they know that what they're getting actually has the active compounds in there. And that's what's so important.
Right.
You need to basically guarantee that, yes, it's not sawdust, it's not grain powder, it's not something that it shouldn't be. No, it has the actual compounds like the beta glucans or ergosterol, which is another compound that we will analyze for. We have 3 or 4 different compounds that we analyze for, that we can put on our certificate of analysis that we give to the companies. And again, look, please test it yourselves. Don't depend on us or believe what we have to say. We're telling you, we've done it. We've done the analyses before we sell it to you. It meets the specification that we've set. But please send it out to the labs and verify it for yourself. That's really important. And with these other products, here's kind of a little tip about mushrooms too.
Mm-hmm.
The beta glucan is a polysaccharide. Okay, a polysaccharide is just has multiple different sugars together, and they put together in sort of a string, and that is really important for the architecture of the beta glucan. But a beta glucan is a polysaccharide. It's just the beta glucan is sort of like one more level down in terms of analysis. Polysaccharide is something where, okay, it also, a polysaccharide will also include starch.
Right.
So a lot of companies will say, oh, our products have 50% polysaccharide. It doesn't mean anything because it could be nothing but grain starch.
Right.
So if you ever see a mushroom product and they're trying to tout polysaccharide analysis, it is just pretty much a way to distract you from what's really important, which are the beta glucans. They're a polysaccharide, but so are these starches. But when you do an actual beta glucan test, that's all it's going to show you. It's going to show you the beta glucans. It's not going to include the starches in there. And mushrooms have no starch. So you have to be very careful when somebody is touting and saying on their label, oh, we've got 50% polysaccharides. Isn't that great?
Right.
No, it's
That's a
not
red
great
flag.
at all. You know, it's a total sort of disinformation, and again, it's just not an honest way to present the products and claim that they have what's important activity wise.
Yeah, that's kind of like I've seen people, or companies, I should say, advertise gluten-free coffee, and it's like, you know, that's cool, but all coffee should be gluten-free anyway. You know, I don't know why you got to make that a label.
Well, you know, that's such an interesting point, because we have to do that too, because people are and companies are always asking us, is your product gluten-free? Mushrooms do not contain gluten, period. But at the same time, we have to tell people and put that out there. No, gluten-free. A lot of people, anything they consume, they want to know whether it is a food that absolutely has no gluten or not. It's you know, that's the nature of our market these days, and the fact of all of these, let's just call it different diets and different sensitivities and things like that. I mean, we have a long list of allergens that we have to make sure when we're selling the products, we have to make sure, okay, no, it's none of these allergens are something in our products. No, you're not, you know, allergic to mushrooms, and none of these are there. So there's all of these different sort of tests and metrics that are used. I mean, today, qualifying, when a company, especially a bigger company, comes to us, they want a level of documentation like you cannot imagine. We have everybody sends a form. And unfortunately, everybody has their own form. The most detailed form that I ever saw, which is like a bunch of questions, and usually they're yes, no. Sometimes they are give us more details. The most extensive form I've ever gotten had 225 questions on it.
Oh my God!
It was I think it was close to 20 pages long.
Jeez.
And you have to go through and fill all these out. A lot of it is like about how they're manufactured. Okay, we sell mushroom extracts, so we take those mushrooms and then we process them in a big facility, and everything that touches that has to be validated and verified, and the factory itself has to have these certifications. So what they want is they'll just go through and the detail that they want is just unbelievable, but that's part of the qualification process now. And then there's about 10 or 15 other statements that need to be made about the product, and is it gluten-free? Is it kosher? Is it, you know, I mean, it's just astounding the level of documentation that we need these days and have to supply to the companies that buy our raw materials.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. The hoops you got to jump through just to.
Oh, it is. And look, you know, I get it in terms of processing,
Right.
because food processing takes place in large facilities that they're either clean or they're not.
Hmm.
And you know, you go to certain places and you look at how something is made, and you might be like, "Oh my God," you know how it has kind of like when we travel, we go to countries and we can get food off the street that people are making, just like there's food carts or food vans in North America,
Right.
and look, we expect the kitchen that they're using to be clean, and
Hmm.
we expect them to be making this in a clean way, because we don't want to walk away and a couple hours later go, "Oh my God, my stomach feels weird," right?
Right.
So I get it. It's important. But again, yes, we go through a lot of that, and we have to provide a lot of documentation to our customers about it. And then that's where, for anybody who says, "Oh yeah, the supplement industry is not regulated," oh man, it is regulated. But that doesn't mean somebody can't sell you this myceliated grain
Hmm.
and call it mushroom. And you know, the best way to describe that to you too is that, are you familiar with tempeh?
Tempeh? No, can't say I am.
Okay. Yeah, actually I don't. Tempeh is something that it's a major food out in Indonesia.
Okay.
And what tempeh is, it's cooked soybeans, and then they grow mycelium on it.
Mm.
And so when you get the tempeh, it'll usually be in the refrigerated section of a supermarket or a Whole Foods type market, and
Uh-huh.
you get it, and it's a block of cooked soybeans, but it looks pretty much white, and that's white mycelium. So when you're eating this food called tempeh, you're
Hmm.
actually eating mycelium, and it's been grown on this soybean. And so it's a really fascinating food. But my point here when I bring it up is that that's what these companies are selling.
Hmm.
They're not selling mushroom, they're selling tempeh, which is a food product.
Right.
And the fact is that the majority of that food product is mostly the grain that mycelium has been grown on.
Man. So nothing is as it seems a lot of the times, right?
That at a lot of times that's absolutely right, and you have to be vigilant. You know, you really do. I mean, you know what it's like out there in terms of buying anything really
Yeah.
quality wise, and ultimately you discover what companies that you can depend on,
Hmm.
what companies you don't want to purchase products, whether it's food or supplement or whatever else. I mean, there are companies in the supplement industry that I call like the bottom feeders,
Hmm.
and they just buy the cheapest stuff that they can find
That's the
and put it out.
Walmart brand stuff.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, just the lowest quality possible,
Hmm.
and they sell it cheaply normally, not always, but they'll sell it cheaply. And you kind of, kind of gets back to, you get what you pay for. And also it's a matter of, you really have to do some due diligence of your own, talk to friends, talk to people that know about certain things, and kind of get, but it's not easy with mushroom products because there's so much disinformation out there about them.
Hmm. No, I hear that. So going back to like the actual mushrooms now, you gave a lot of helpful tips about how to help people get quality stuff. But I would do want to dive deeper about the medicinal and health benefits of different mushrooms. So you mentioned the beta glucane, if I remember that
Yep.
correctly, as one of the main compounds that help with your immune system. Is there any other things that are in mushrooms, whether that's a macro or a micronutrient or a phytonutrient that, or some other fungal nutrient that is unknown to me at the moment, that can help with that or help with other aspects of their life?
Have you ever heard of lion's mane?
I have. Very popular right now.
Yeah, my God. Chuma, it is so interesting because 5 years ago, I think we probably sold 100 kilos of lion's mane extract.
Hmm.
Last year, I think we sold 10 tons.
Oh my God.
That's how crazy. Lion's mane is our top selling mushroom.
I can imagine.
And why is that? Well, lion's mane is kind of what people consider as a nootropic, and it's something that enhances performance in some way. And in this case, lion's mane has compounds in it called hericenones, and they stimulate what's called nerve growth factor. And so we are manufacturing nerve growth factor all the time, and it helps to organize and to keep our neurons healthy and stimulates kind of like the growth of those neurons. So this nerve growth factor is important. And one of the things that happens is as you age, nerve growth factor, you don't produce quite as much of it. And so that's one of the, let's just say, one of the possibilities of deterioration of mental faculties as you age. And so, you know, everybody is, as they're aging, is like, geez, what happened to my memory? And my memory's not as good anymore. And you don't really start to notice that until you're after 60. And then you things you just like, well, what was that again? And so and then the interesting part about it is also the younger generation is kind of like, okay, anything that can help me focus or mentally more capable, I want it.
Right.
For me, it's like, yeah, my nootropic is coffee, and every morning it's like, yeah, bring me my coffee. and so lion's mane actually stimulates this nerve growth factor, and that is they've done some interesting tests with it, clinical trials with it in Japan, where they feed people 3 grams of lion's mane, and they have a control group. They give them a bunch of tests first. Okay, they've got the test, then they test them after 120 days, and the people who've been taking the lion's mane do better on the test than the people that didn't. Wow. So they've got some clinical trials which seem to substantiate this. And so that's one of the mushrooms out there, again, like right now. Okay, everybody wants lion's mane, and for that very reason, potentiating and stimulating your mental abilities.
Yeah, this is oh, my bad. We're going to continue on lion's mane?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say this segues really well into my next set of questions. Yeah. And we'll kind of do like a little rapid fire thing. And I was going to break down and ask you what, everyone wants to improve their different biofeedback markers, like you said, which mushrooms are going to be best for each individual one, right? And one of them was going to be mental clarity and focus. So you already covered that with lion's mane. Going into the next one, though, which mushroom would you recommend for sleep, improving sleep quality and restfulness?
Well, the one that they've traditionally used for that has been reishi. And reishi has a very, very high level of beta glucans, but it also has compounds called triterpenoids. And these triterpenoids have been demonstrated to provide kind of a calming activity. So they do sort of look at reishi as something that calms you down, something that is good for stressed out people. And there's some good papers out there about reishi and insomnia. So definitely in terms of sleep issues, I would recommend people to try reishi. That's something they could, if they get on, and the one thing about mushrooms too is like, look, they don't act like, okay, I'm going to take this IBU right now, and in an hour from now, my headache's going to be gone, or that pain's going to be gone. That's not how mushrooms act. They're something that you have to be taking in a regular, ongoing way. They're there. So if you're having insomnia issues, then you just start taking reishi and just, take it for 30 or 60 days. Does it help or doesn't it? But they're going to be working there in the background. That's how they work. It's just like, think about taking a vitamin. Do you expect to be taking that vitamin and go, oh man, I can really feel that vitamin C today. It is powerful. No, that's not how it works. The way it works is, for example, with the beta glucans and the immunological am I getting colds this year like I normally do?
Mm-hmm.
Flu like I normally do, or is that less now? And what could that be? Well, I've been taking these mushroom supplements. I've been putting mushrooms into my diet. Maybe that's what's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the way you really have to look at it with these things. Don't look at that necessarily immediate thing.
Right. It's a big
But
picture thing.
yeah, and now I'm sure one of the things you're going to be talking about too maybe is like um, athletics or exercising or anything like that. And you
Right.
know, one of the mushrooms that is being used for that is Cordyceps, and
Mm.
maybe you've heard of Cordyceps.
I have,
And,
yeah.
and yeah, and Cordyceps. What's interesting about Cordyceps is that it has been used for people who have had an illness, and now they're kind of over the hump with it, but they're still kind of tired. They're
Mm-hmm.
still kind of fatigued. That's when they give them cordyceps,
Mm-hmm.
and so cordyceps. If you know that's why a lot of athletes have been trying cordyceps to see whether or not that is something that could help them overcome fatigue. They've shown that it does help with oxygen utilization. So they've had even some tests where high altitude, taking it for operating at high altitudes and things like that. So cordyceps is the one that people look to for athletic, whether it be workout or performance. Now, I have seen an interesting clinical trial that was done with cordyceps and high functioning athletes.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found is that with a athlete at a higher function level where improvements are measured in seconds and things like that,
Right.
it's not really going to help you much.
Mm-hmm.
But for people who are not at that level, that's where I suspect you'd get most of the benefits, you know, whereas, I mean, and I don't know enough about high functioning athletes other than they're on some kind of real strict program in a lot of ways. I mean,
Right.
you may be in that category yourself with what you're doing and your diet and things like that, to where
Mm-hmm.
you've got some very strict sort of parameters that you operate within.
Right.
But again, cordyceps, you know, with all of these things, the way I look at them too is I think, you know, try it out. Don't just do it for a week or two, do it for a month or two. See if you can feel the difference.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's true of just about anything. You know, give it time
Yeah,
to see whether it's going to work or not, whether it's going to change. We build up patterns that are hard to break, and that could be a physical pattern. And you know, I mean, you know how important diet is too. I mean, my God,
for sure.
and trying to change a diet as well is like, wow.
Mm-hmm. I love that you're bringing it up in this way. Like, this isn't necessarily 100% of the time always going to help everybody, but you should test and assess it for yourself, because whenever anyone tries anything, like you said, they're looking for that complete
Immediate.
change. Yeah, the immediate change in their how they feel, how they perform, how they do anything. But it's a lot of consistency and checking the trends a lot of times, right?
No, that's absolutely right, and you know that because I mean you're helping people in their workouts, and that's not something where, okay, yeah, come on in today, and next week you're going to look like,
Yeah.
you know, Charles
Right.
Atlas or Brad Pitt as the Achilles or something,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And look, you know, I just want to be clear here. I'm not here to sell products to anybody. I mean, to me, what I'm telling people essentially is, look, mushrooms are a great food. The
Mhm.
first thing I say is put mushrooms into your diet. Yeah, because that's the first thing you want to do. But if you want to look at them as supplements, yes, try them as supplements too. But get mushrooms into your diet because they have an overall health benefit for you. And eat them 2-3 times a week at least. And don't just eat a small amount either. Eat a decent amount of them. You know, one of those button mushrooms is and I weighed it out not long ago. One medium-sized button mushroom is 40 grams fresh weight.
Wow.
40 grams. I mean, that's a lot when you think about, I mean, that's not a lot, I guess is what I'm saying. So,
Right.
so if you're just eating one mushroom, it's like, no, that's not enough, right?
Yeah.
Eat 3 or 4 or 5. I mean, my God, when I chop up a bunch of mushrooms, and I'm a meat eater, and I like to eat mushrooms with any piece of beef I've got that I'm grilling up. I'm cooking up mushrooms at the same time, and it's going to be smothered in them. And look, it's not just 1 or 2. It's like I've got 3 or 4 or 5 of these button mushrooms that I'm chopping up. And just so everybody knows, when you're cooking mushrooms, high heat, oil of your choice, but high heat. If you put them on a low heat, Juma, what happens is all the water comes out of them. Now they're swimming in liquid. They do not taste very well. They end up, you know, a kid, you feed mushrooms to a kid, most they're not cooked properly. They go, oh man, these are slimy. These are horrible.
Right.
You know, no, cook them up. And when you cook them properly, you're frying that, you brown either side of it, the moisture stays in. They do shrink. So that's where, okay, 1 or 2 mushrooms, and then you're going like, where the hell did they go?
Right.
You know, no, you need enough of them there. And then, you know, that way you're getting plenty of them. You're getting the benefits from them. They taste good. They're not soggy and slimy or anything like that. The texture's great. So that's another tip that I like to give people, because I'm very, for me, I recommend people put mushrooms into their diet.
Yeah, I love that you say it like that. And I love that you brought up the kid example, because I actually tell a lot of adults that tell me, they come up to me asking for nutrition help, and they're like, I don't really like vegetables. I'll always say, you probably just don't know how to cook vegetables, you know?
Exactly. That's exactly the same thing. Somebody cooks their vegetable down to a mush, and people are like, oh, this is, you know, no texture left to it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's absolutely true. And the way we were raised, and our mothers, who, how they were preparing them, a lot of times, well, they're just doing what they were taught, and maybe they're not really hip to the fact that, hey, there's a kind of a right way and a wrong way to do this.
It's hard to break that, again, that old habit of how you cook things for so many years and stuff like that. Yeah,
absolutely. And let me just say, I looked at the photos of the dishes on your website. I think I told you this earlier. Yeah. I'm just like, oh my God, can I come to dinner, please?
If you're ever in Chicago, you're welcome. We'll have a dinner for you.
Awesome. Yeah, because it was like, wow.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah,
made me very hungry.
Yeah, there's always a way to make it taste good and look good, right? And you got to make it exciting if you want to keep doing it.
Hey, you know what? I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday. We were talking food, and I said, you know what? Sometimes I don't want to eat a particular food just because I don't like the way it looks.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
You know? Yeah, it does. I don't like the way this looks. You know, I'm sorry. I don't want to eat it. And you think, you know, that sounds kind of weird, but at the same time, for me, I'm like, no, sorry. It just doesn't, it's just not appealing.
Yeah. Food has, it's a crazy thing because it applies to all the senses, right? At the same time, you know, when you do those things, even like a social sense too, because you use food to bring people together. It plays a big role in making that experience more enjoyable for everyone you're around at the same time.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. It's a very broad, big thing that does take all the senses there, and it's an amazing experience when it's done properly.
Yeah, for sure. There's a restaurant, on a tangent here. There's a restaurant in Chicago called Olympia. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not. It was rated at some point, I don't know how long it lasted, #1 restaurant in the world. But wow. They play with the psychology of food a lot. Like, they'll bring you this food that looks like it's going to be hard and crunchy, but when you bite into it, it's actually really soft and chewy, and it changes the entire experience for you.
Oh, wow.
It's really crazy. I definitely recommend to anyone listening. I haven't been. I've seen videos, but it's also super crazy expensive, high
Yeah,
end
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
place.
Of
You know,
course.
you got to really save up for this if you're going to go to it. But continuing off of, you know, which mushrooms aid in which type of biofeedback you're trying to improve. You know, we talked about the sleep, talked about performance in the gym and mental performance. Is there anything just for general energy that can help with, kind of like a coffee replacement? Is lion's mane what you go for with that, or is there something else?
Well, actually, I would say probably not. I don't think that any one of them has that kind of a boost to
Okay.
it. I think, you know, in general, like I've sort of been talking about, is that
Mm-hmm.
the beta glucans, what's really interesting about the beta glucans, when you get down and you start to look at all the research, and the research on beta glucans is so deep, there's so many benefits from those beta glucans and just kind of overall enhancement of our bodily functions. I mean, it's just really pretty incredible. And you know, the other thing about mushrooms is that they're considered to be what a term that's called an adaptogen. And what
Right.
that means is they're kind of regulating. And you know, one of the things about health is that illness is, the way I look at it, is just getting out of balance. And all of a sudden something's entered in, and man, whatever that is, we're just thrown right out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, sometimes you can see that immediately with certain foods that a person eats, and all of a sudden it's like, oh man, I don't really feel that good. And other times it's just like, oh man, I just feel so good after eating that meal. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, balance is sort of what health is all about, reaching that homeostasis where everything just seems to be functioning right, and you just know that you're doing the right thing. And mushrooms are kind of they're in that category of, they're helping to promote that for you. So in a sense, that's one of the sort of like overarching benefits about mushrooms, is they help to keep you in that homeostasis and help to maintain that regulation and that balance and that harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Adaptogens are actually, you know, because there's herbs that are considered adaptogens, they're called
Right.
harmony herbs, because they kind of help us out in that
Mm.
way. Okay, help us out if we're stressed out and other things like that. Although, look, you know, they're not going to do everything for you. And that's
Right.
one of the things I think you have to really remember about mushrooms, because I go out and I see sites that, for example, are selling chaga.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God, it's just like, is there anything this particular fungus does not do? You know what it's like with people in business at times, especially now that we can see all of that on the internet, all these sites, and they've just got so many different benefits that they claim
Mm-hmm.
for certain products that people are selling. And I just say to people, look, don't listen to that.
Yeah.
Don't listen to what they say. No, it's not a panacea. And that's how some of these things are sold, as panaceas. They'll do everything for you. Like, no, that's not how it works. You know, it's like, no. So I'm always saying, calm down when you see those sites. That's why I like to look at it as there's a handful of really major benefits that you're going to get from mushrooms, and specific mushrooms will be, you know, maybe a little bit better than another one. But you know, what happens, I think, is that if you look at the scientific literature,
Mm-hmm.
when they're taking any plant, they're interested in drug discovery. So
Mm-hmm.
they'll take that plant, they will break it down into 10, 20, 30 different fractions, and then they'll test those against any number of different types of testing systems, you know. And a lot of the systems could be, okay, we're going to try it against 10 different cancer systems, or
Mm-hmm.
other things. And then if there's any activity at all, they'll report it out. And, oh, that paper, we found some activity against this or that. Next
Mm-hmm.
thing you know, there's 100 different sort of benefits from a fraction that came out of a particular plant or mushroom. And
Mm-hmm.
so somebody could go out there and say, hey, look, this mushroom does 100 different things.
Mm-hmm.
Functionally, that is just incorrect. Okay, yeah, in these tests, it showed this particular benefit, but in terms of if you're taking that as a supplement or eating it, you're not going to get that benefit because, well, for one, it was this fraction that only occurs in a tiny amount, very small amount in a mushroom. You're never going to be able to eat enough of that. Oh yeah, if you ate 10 kilos of fresh mushrooms, maybe you'd get that benefit, maybe not. You know, so these are the kind of things that I'm always kind of trying to push back on a little bit and say, look, no, it's not a panacea. It doesn't do everything. And that's kind of one of the things that's happened with chaga is that people selling it have just touted it to the sky and call it the king of mushrooms, for example. The king of mushrooms. It's like, and then I say, look, I've been around long enough that I've seen 4 different kings of mushrooms, and this is the latest one. It's like, you know, please, these are just marketing terms, and these are just, you know, it's not helpful.
Right. It really goes back to like everyone trying to find that one simple solution to all their problems, right? And when you oversimplify it like that, as opposed to balancing your entire life to fit what you're trying to, you know, accomplish, it becomes like, wow, I got to do that now and throw all this other stuff away.
Oh man, yeah, and that kind of is part of the whole when things start to be trendy, right?
Yeah.
And this year it's this particular supplement. We call it in the industry, we call it the supplement of the month or the herb of the month, that kind of thing. And we see these things come and go, and everybody gets really excited, and then they move on to the next thing, and you know, none of that is really helpful. It's good when information comes out about things and we learn about things. And you know, one of the things about the mushroom phenomena, from my standpoint anyway, is like this has been a very, very slow, gradual move. And okay, it took off, but there is a lot of space out there for mushrooms being used in a number of ways that's going to be positive. But along the way, we're also going to gather a lot of hypesters and Me Too and all of that, and a lot of low quality products, and that's kind of just comes with the territory, I think.
Right. Yeah, I think that just with anything that becomes an amazing thing, there are other people that are going to want to try to replicate it, but they're not able to do it right, so it becomes this cheap knockoff all at the same time.
Yeah. And you know, it's like going on Amazon and we see new products come on to Amazon all the time, new brands selling, and you know, you ever wonder why some of these a new product hits Amazon and within like a month it's got like 5,000 reviews or something, and you're just like,
in no time, there's no way.
Wait a minute, you know, it's like, what's going on here? You know, it's just crazy, and but you know, again, I guess all you can say is, well, that's the marketplace out there, and it's probably never been any different than that. And you know,
it's I watch a lot of YouTube / TikToks that just happen to come up about selling on Amazon, and the process to sell on Amazon is like unbelievably easy. You know, anyone can hop on and do these and get 5,000 reviews and make their product look really good. And it doesn't necessarily mean that this is a good product or that it's going to work for you or anything like that. It's kind of
absolutely right.
Insane.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because that also doesn't mean that these people are going to sell any product either, you know, and that's what happens with so many of these kind of Me Too products that get in there. And it's amazing too, the specialization, because we use certain company to help with the way things get sold on Amazon, and there are formulas for making it work and just regular ways to do it where you're not going to get anywhere close to what these pros who've got it all sort of figured out do. But the one of the things that definitely drives me over the edge is when I see some of these new companies come along and within a short period of time they've got thousands of reviews, and you're just like, oh, you know, give me a break. Come on, Amazon.
No integrity there.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah, man, I hate that. But back on the mushroom topic, we should get back to that. I feel like the main point you try to get across with this is that mushrooms are enhancers in certain aspects of your life, but again, they're not the end all be all of what you should be doing. You can use it to benefit, these individual aspects. Like you use lion's mane to help with your mental alertness. You could use reishi to help with your sleep and relaxation, but you should also be doing other stuff on top of that to help also.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, I consider diet to be the foundation of health.
I agree.
You've got to have a good diet. If you don't, nothing's going to help you, right? And again, that's why I'm always saying to people, eat mushrooms before you supplement. Eat mushrooms, get them into your diet. That's really important. So yeah, that's definitely my philosophy about all of this. Don't expect something immediately, and look. I try to have as good a diet as possible. I exercise. I have a routine a workout routine that I do. I've got a nice little home gym, which is really cool. And nice. Then I also do some floor exercises for my basic core. I do what's called there's these three, the I don't know, core 3 or something like that was done by a back specialist that I do. And then I try to get out and walk every day. I try to get out, that's kind of like the other activity that I do, because I don't really get that much of a real aerobic workout, but I do at least get out and walk for an hour and a half on a regular basis. Try to do it daily unless it's raining or something. So, there's all of these factors, as you well know, that play into our health and are so important, and allow us to operate at just a higher level than if we're eating out of the middle aisles of the supermarket.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I like how you phrase that. But building off of that, you're mentioning incorporating more mushrooms into your diet. But in the supermarket, for the most part, I've only really seen 1, maybe 2 types of mushrooms. And I'm assuming diversity of mushrooms is kind of helpful to get the full effect of consuming mushrooms. How would you get more diversity of mushrooms if the supermarket only sells like 1 or 2 kinds? And which ones would you recommend as good starter mushrooms to include more frequently?
Well, my favorite mushroom, and I think one of the absolute mushrooms that you need to get into your diet, is shiitake.
Okay.
And shiitake's kind of reached a point where a lot of supermarkets will have fresh shiitake mushrooms. If the supermarket doesn't, there's always, most places, especially big cities, will have a Whole Foods or some type of natural foods market. And normally those markets will have 3 or 4 or 5 different species of mushrooms in there. So definitely shiitake is number 1. Agaricus, the button mushroom, I still like that mushroom. I still eat that mushroom. It actually has positive functional benefits. So don't rule that one out. The other mushrooms, if you've got maitake, high quality functional mushroom, maitake, a great eating mushroom, oyster mushroom. Oyster mushroom is fairly common out there. I would definitely put that in there as a mushroom that you could buy. Each one of these mushrooms will have a little bit different flavor, which is great. And the thing about mushrooms, you can use them in a lot of ways, whether it be a stir fry or with your beef or in eggs, or they just go with anything, right, really. And you just decide what flavor that you really like, because each one will have a little bit different flavor. So really, especially in metropolitan areas like Chicago, you should be able to find stores that will have, I would say, at least 6 different mushrooms, and most of them, interestingly enough, will be these medicinal ones, like an oyster mushroom, like shiitake, like maitake, and again, even the agaricus. So there you've got 4 right there that are not just good edible mushrooms, but also have the medicinal side too. So that's definitely, those are all there and should be relatively available to you.
What makes shiitake number 1 to you?
Man, the flavor. The
Oh, really?
flavor, oh my God, the shiitake. You know, in China they call it shanggu, which
Hmm.
means fragrant mushroom. It's
Mm.
got a wonderful aroma, it's got a great flavor, and it's got a really good aftertaste too. So, again, that's my number one. And it's funny, in my little community here,
Yeah.
I only have two mushrooms in my markets. I've got the agaricus, and I do have shiitake. Unfortunately, the shiitake that makes it way out here is
Uh-huh.
not very good quality.
Damn.
But I'll still buy them and sort them out. And that's one of the things too about mushrooms is if you see the mushroom like the shiitake, if it's starting to look a little bit ragged and brown spots maybe on the gills.
Hmm.
Normally, that's probably means a little older. The brown spots would be bacteria.
Hmm.
Um, Same with a button mushroom. If it's got brown spots on its cap, then and that's probably one you'd want to avoid too. There's definitely um, some things that you need to look for when you're buying mushrooms because they sometimes they just have been sitting too long or that took too long to get there. But in Chicago, I really think that there would be farms in your area that would be feeding these. If not, they'd be flown in by somewhere, and they should be relatively fresh. Although I will say,
Hmm.
a lot of produce managers do not know how to handle mushrooms. The worst thing, if you ever seen mushrooms sitting in the case and you see the sprayers on them, that is a no-no. You know
Oh,
how they're kind of like misting down on the other vegetables.
right.
No, you don't want to do that because that can stimulate the growth of bacteria.
Mm.
So mushrooms should always be kept in a place in the produce area where no, they're not getting those
Yeah,
sprays
like a dry
down on
shelving.
them. Yeah, so it's
Man,
it's
that's
just
an interesting
these.
note.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot imagine how many times I've been in markets and I've looked at what they're selling and I go like, you know what, these mushrooms there, throw them in the dumpster. They're no, why are these still on the shelf? They're like past their prime. You don't
Hmm.
want to be selling these things, and I don't know why people would even buy these things. I can look at them and just say, God, that's horrible.
Ro-
It's
Man, we're rolling off of that now. What's your preferred method to cook shiitake? Because I think like we said, how you cook it and prepare it makes a big difference. What do you pair it with that you enjoy? This is a personal question now.
yeah.
That you like to always go to.
Well, first of all, like my main way of cooking a mushroom is frying it. That
Okay.
I like. I will fry it in different oils. I mean, sometimes depending, I might use a little olive oil, or I have another oil that I use. I think up here they have a lot of canola oil. This is in,
Hmm.
and the canola I get is a sort of a organic, non-GMO oil because most of it's GMO, which I'd rather stay away from if I can. But either one
Right.
of those two oils, again, a hot pan, get that oil nice and hot. Don't cut them too thinly, maybe a quarter of an inch when you're slicing them.
Hmm.
Um, Throw them in. Once the pan gets nice and hot, let them start to fry up. They'll start to absorb the oil, so don't be afraid to put a little bit more in if you need to. Or, I mean, the other things, I'll cook my mushrooms in butter too. I mean, I
Mm.
eat butter and I like butter, so you can cook them in butter. Let them be sure you let them cook so that they get brown on the sides. So you want them browned up. Go ahead and sort of like stir them if net. Sometimes I mean, I hate to say this, but sometimes I'll turn them over by hand if I have to, just to get the other side browned. Uh, and I like to cook them a little longer than most people. I'd cook them for at least 10 minutes on that high heat to get them browned. Cook well. They will
Hmm.
shrink. At that point, I can either set them aside and sometimes I'll use a wok when I'm cooking other vegetables and so I won't do it at the same time. I'll cook each vegetable separately, set it aside,
Hmm.
the next one, and then ultimately put them all together. And the wok's great if I'm doing a stir fry because then you can kind of get just the right crunch factor and things like that. the thing that I do sometimes, which is sad, is I'll steam up my veggies, and sometimes I get busy doing something else, and I'm like, oh God, a couple of minutes too long, and it's way too
I
soft
know that
now.
feeling.
Yeah, you know how sometimes we just get distracted by, okay, look, I've got my let's just say my steak on the barbecue, and that's just right outside the door, and I'm out there checking on it, and meanwhile, oh God, I forgot my broccoli or my cauliflower or something like that. And so that's the other side of it is I guess, you know, being a good cook is watching over it and not getting distracted.
Yeah, I always call that dish that comes up the consequences of my actions, because that's like, I did this to myself and I just have to eat this now.
Yes, exactly. And look, you know what? Even vegetables like that get somewhat, you know, like a broccoli or cauliflower that gets over soft. I love those vegetables anyway. I'm a huge vegetable eater. I've actually cut down on carbs pretty much for dinner. I still, you know, I love bread and stuff like that. So sandwiches or whatever. But in terms of my just a straight carb type thing for dinner, I'm kind of shying away from that a little bit because, you know, look, at my age, I'm not getting out there with a lot of activity and burning off those kind of things. So I don't really need them. I'm getting enough carbs with my bread and you know, so for breakfast, I have normally just coffee and then maybe a scone or a biscuit or something like that, or toast. But otherwise, I've kind of eliminated carbs from my dinner these days. Instead of like that nice potato, which I like, or rice, which I love, you know, it's like, I don't need that. I just don't need the carbs anymore, right?
Yeah. So I'm sure you have them just more infrequently now, like when you really want to treat yourself or something.
That's absolutely right. It's like, you know, sometimes I'll make up a big stew. And I love a nice big beef stew, and I'll throw in potatoes into the beef stew, and then you know have all sorts of veggies in there and a different kind of a, you know, kind of a beef of some sort that it's in the stew, and that's one of my favorite meals actually.
Man, I love that. Now, on that note of what you're eating, what is like your regular mushroom consumption look like? Do you have a mushroom routine you have throughout the week, or is it kind of like what's available to you? Do you prioritize any? What does it look like?
Well, you know what? I always, excuse me, I always have mushrooms in my fridge.
Okay.
And generally speaking, I would say that I've probably got them in almost anything that I'm eating on a daily basis. Oh, wow. And for example, like last night, one of my other sort of special meals. And look, right now I'm actually living alone, and I've, you know, for the last year or so, and I can't get to Australia where my girlfriend is because it's locked down tight. So here I am. I'm cooking for myself, and so last night I cooked up some ground beef, and I'm always throwing some mushrooms into that and a few other veggies. And then I make myself some tacos, basically, which is one of my quick and easy meals. And so I've got some corn tortillas, which I like, and I'll put that on there, and I'll melt some cheese on it, and then I'll put some avocado in it. And, you know, I love avocados, and then, you know, some lettuce, and then I'll have some tacos for dinner. Wow. That's kind of like, and then sometimes I have leftovers from that, and so I'll have a taco for lunch, and that also means rather than the sandwich with, you know, bread, which I normally always have a loaf of bread around, I'll just have a taco for lunch too, and that's kind of like where I can make things, and they'll be sitting in the fridge where I can, you know, like for me, if I'm going to do a chicken, I'll buy a whole chicken, I'll cut it up into pieces. I'll throw it on my grill, cook it all up. Well, now I've got that chicken for 2 or 3 or 4 days. And, you know, I can do a chicken Caesar salad or something. And when I make a salad, I mean, it's usually I throw everything into my salad. I'll throw avocados in. I'll throw a red pepper or chop that up. I'll throw cucumber in there, hemp seeds, which I like a lot, the chicken. So my salads are really a whole mix of stuff, and then I'll usually either use hemp oil on the salad with maybe a little vinegar, or else I'll do lemon juice on the salad.
That sounds so good. actually.
It is, yeah. My salads, I'm just like, oh yeah, just it's like, and that's kind of like one of what I'd call my raw meals, where it's just all raw veggies, and the chicken is just kind of adds to that, and yeah, it's just delicious.
Man, oh man, got me hungry now. But Jeff, I don't want to take too much more of your time here. I appreciate all the time we've spent talking about this and all the knowledge that you've shared so much. It's been such a value add to everyone listening. If people want to see more about what you do and more of your products, even if they want to try that out, where can they find you at?
Well, come to our website. It's nammex.com, NAMMEX.com. And we've got a whole, there's a menu there for educational, where we've got lots of really interesting articles about mushrooms. Come for that. Nammex is the wholesale side, but we've also got the retail side, which is realmushrooms.com. And also lots of great educational material there. And on the Nammex site, slideshows too, where I'm doing slideshow presentations about how we grow our mushrooms, the differences between, so you can actually visualize the difference between like real mushrooms and this myceliated grain tempeh that I've been talking about. And so, just lots of really interesting content, Tuma. And so definitely come for that, and it'll just sort of like enhance what we've gone over with a lot of visuals.
Right. No, I've gone on the Nammex website in the last week, and I've learned so much just scrolling through the articles, honestly.
Oh, awesome.
It makes a big difference. Yeah, I'll definitely be checking out the realmushrooms.com afterwards. And anyone that wants to check it out also that you're listening, it's going to be linked in the show notes below, so you have quick access to it. And now I got one more question for you, Jeff, before I let you go. And this is called the Not So Stupid Podcast, and we focus on simplicity and improving people's lives. So what is one simple thing that you would recommend anyone listening to do that can dramatically improve their life? You've mentioned a few throughout, so if you could find a different one, that would be appreciated.
First of all, let me just say, I love the whole idea of simplicity. I think that is so important in life. And the one thing that you can do to improve yourself, get out of your car. Go for a walk. Try and walk more than you normally do, because our car culture, my God, I hate to even think about how many hours I've been in a car. And when you think about that, I mean, look, we're sitting a lot in our cars. We're sitting more. So I'm always telling people, and especially true for city people, look, I mean, I have friends in the city, they jump in their car just to go, 10 minutes away to get, some ice cream because they don't have any for that evening or something like that.
And for that, they even go through a drive-through, I'm sure.
Yeah. So it's just like, please get out of your car, walk more, you'll feel better, you'll be healthier, you'll keep your body moving. That's the one thing I would say. And boy, talk about simple. You don't need any aids or anything. That's all you have to do. So that's what I've got to say about it.
I appreciate that one. That's a great one, and definitely an easy one for anyone listening to do. If they weren't walking already, listening to this, they're going to get up and walk for sure. So thank you again, Jeff, for your time and all the knowledge that you've shared. Again, if you want to see any of Jeff's work and any further education on mushrooms, that's going to be linked in the show notes. But thank you everyone again for listening. Thank you, Jeff, for your time, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.